Hi, I'm Jeff Miller, and welcome to Legislative Insights, McDermott's Government Strategies look at the midterm elections. And today I'm joined by Steve Ryan, and we're going to be discussing the governor's and state attorney general's races. Steve, a lot of the focus at McDermott is on federal legislation and issues that are around this administration, but a lot of times we've got to focus on governors and attorney generals. And so the question is, how does that happen and what do we do?
So, Jeff, the same political issue that may come before the federal legislature, breach notification laws, data privacy issues, issues related to healthcare costs, may crop up at the same time in the states and be the object of state attorney general litigation or a state governor's legislative initiative. So in representing clients, we have to, on occasion, drop down to state capitals to work directly with the governor or the governor's staff, or to work with the state attorney general, or more importantly, to help our client find the right player in the state capital to engage to work on the same project with us, where we and the corporation bring the new lobbyist up to speed to work on that matter.
So we focus on the governor's races, the attorney general's races, but a lot of times from a particular political party, that may not make a necessary difference because most of this is administrative, correct?
So what's interesting about the states, take the state attorneys general, we often go to bipartisan state attorney general meetings where we're mixing on the same day with Democratic and Republican AGs. And the discussion is about an issue like opioids or data breach. And it is not a Democratic discussion and a Republican discussion, it's just a discussion of the issue. Now, that's become strained and there's more politicization, if you will, of the attorney general community, but it's still a place where people are in the get it done party, where they're trying to accomplish something and where you can often go to a meeting and speak to people of both parties from around the country.
You do that a lot in the attorney general world.
We do, and one of the things about the state attorney general world is oftentimes it helps if you've got a really big issue to hire a former state attorney general to help you with that. But it's important for corporations and for trade associations to have direct contact as well with the state attorneys general. And we do a lot of that. We do go to their meetings, and we found some sets of meetings are particularly more useful than others. With the National Governors Association, it's almost a full-time commitment to have somebody told off to do the governor's staff. So we tend to have focused on the attorneys generals rather than on the governors. And then we hopefully will find somebody in the governor's leadership, like Terry McAuliffe was just recently the head of the National Governors Association, that allows us to drop into the National Governors Association and work with them on a particularized issue. But if you had the money and you were a corporation, you'd want to have relationships both at the governor level and at the state attorney general level.
So it's an election year too at the state level. What are the races looking like in both the governors and the attorney general?
Well, the Republican governors are a dominant group. There's never been a larger group of Republican governors than we currently have around the country. And as we look at those Republican governors, many of them are up for re-election. There are 26 Republican governors up for re-election and only 9 Democrats. With regard to some of those seats, it's expected that 3 of the Republican governorships that are currently, held by a Republican will be held by a Democrat when we're done. So there's going to be a reduction in the number of Republican governorships, but they still have more. And that's important when you come to the 2020 presidential race. And it's really important when you come to redistricting Congress in 2020. Every 10 years, we redraw the congressional lines, and the Republican dominance in the House from 2010 to 2020 was pushed by a large class of Republican governors who could then do a nice job for Republican candidates of drawing Republican-friendly districts. What we're looking to is that the House, in the long run, after 2020, will be different based on who wins the election in the governorships right now in 2018, because they'll be governors for 4 years in almost every case. So the governor races have an important political overhang into the future. The attorneys general races are not, in that sense, as consequential to the political system, but most attorneys general are hoping to be called governor or senator someday. And statewide races for attorney general prepare a candidate to run for governor or to run for the Senate, and people become very formidable politicians as state attorneys general, and it's a good platform to build up issues about being against sex trafficking, being against opioid abuse, and state attorneys general have turned out to be very good politicians and gone on to be governors or senators. And so it's an easy way to get to know somebody who's going to be important and is important right now. So that's why we watch these races pretty closely. On the attorney general side, there are 29 races up, and again, more Republicans than Democrats. And these down ballot races sometimes will be split. In other words, the governor in a state may go for one party and the attorney general for another. So you actually see some ballot splitting between the voters instead of straight down the column voting.
I think one of the things that's important for folks to know is that the state attorney generals actually affect the business community directly.
That's absolutely true. It is important for any major corporation that has an important installation in a state to develop and have a business relationship with the attorney general of that state, or more generally, at least track through a third party what's being talked about suits that are going to be brought by multiple attorneys general acting together on the same issue. We've seen collections of attorney generals suing the same industry or client across a series of state boundaries, working together with one another, generally on party lines, but sometimes in a bipartisan way. And then you have a big legal problem because you're being sued in many of the states that you work in.
Steve, thank you for your keen insight on both the governor's races and the attorney general races.
Jeff, it's a pleasure. Thanks.